Namaste, Galactic family. Welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. Welcome if you are new. And if you are returning, don't forget to hit that little notifications bell so you can continue to receive my messages. And don't forget to hit the like button as you come on into this dimension, this dimensional party we're having. And as always, thank you for your love and support of my channel. Namaste. You guys are the best. So we have an asteroid heading to Earth on November 2nd, right before Election Day. It is a small, very small refrigerator-sized asteroid. So what do you know, guys? We are being impacted right before the election day. So this might bring some surprises. This might bring some turns and twists or some unexpected manifestations in the election. You know that the asteroids be carrying that extraterrestrial feminine energy. And that's because they come from places outside of the Milky Way or within the Milky Way, and they could be carrying life on them, organisms and things that we don't have here on Earth. So when they impact, they may be bringing life. And I think that's why, or I feel that's why they do get more of a feminine vibe. I think if you look through Greek mythology, there's Juno, who was Zeus's wife. She was an asteroid. And then also Ceres, which is a feminine described asteroid. And that's the reason that we have seasons. That's from Greek mythology. And it's only because when they impact, they also create a maternal crater-like wound in the Earth, in Gaia. And I've spoke about this in depth. If you caught my Kali crater or my Kali invocation, the one where I'm rubbing my necklace for the invocation, my Kali necklace, my Japa Mala necklace, it's 108 prayer beads of Kali camel bones is what it's supposed to be. But essentially, yeah, I made that Kali invocation, and it was to kind of go through the depth and the mythology of crater-like wounds in Earth and what they mean. Actually shot part of that video at the 9 Kali craters in Estonia. So if you didn't catch that invocation, you should watch it. It's pretty good. And really kind of wakes one up to the Kali Yuga and the times that we're living in right now. But essentially, that's not what this video is about today. And I'm so rambling on and on, guys. This is not what I'm doing this video on. This video is a galactic energy update that will be all about the lunar Stargate locations. And I'm going to really get into the depth of this today. I have so much to talk to you guys about, everything that I've been researching. And yeah, so I'm just going to present this for you guys today. So I seem to kind of have slipped into accessing some deep lunar celestial wisdom that I'd really like to share. And this is a special blue moon delivery. All of this information just started coming to me at the first full moon this month. So it's kind of like completion, coming full cycle for me to actually deliver this. And it's also going into the depth of a lot more lunar information that I actually talked about in my book. So who has my book? Comment if you have my book. Comment if you'd like to get my book. But I'm going to talk about this more. And yeah, so I kind of went from receiving high solar codes back into the lunar undertones to bring you this galactic update today. So we are going to discuss the potentiality of the lunar stargates and their planetary locations. And to discuss all this, I'm really going to have to dive into the depth of the Earth's relationship with the moon and what all this means on a deeper intuitive level, also on an organic level. And I just want to state as well as a disclaimer on this video today, and for all my videos, that I can neither fully prove or disprove any of the information that I present. I simply present what's true to my own gnosis and my own perspective, my own experiences, and my own guidance from the divine. Also from guardian consciousness. And because I consider myself to be an unestablished guardian. And I kind of went over what I felt that meant in my last video. So if you'd like to check that out, please check out the last update that I put out. But essentially, guardian consciousness means simply in its spiritual forms and its cosmic signatures, those closest to God. So I just want to reiterate, if you listen today, you do so at your own gnosis. And it's always a good recommended wisdom to never fully give yourself to something that you don't fully understand. And so I just want to leave it at that and dive into this video today. Yeah, I've also charted on my Scribbles map with all of the lunar locations. So I'm going to be showing you guys that. And I've also created an extended universal tree of life, basically to display my findings. And I did promise this also for my last video, so I'm excited to present this today. And it's pretty awesome. It's a lot of graphic design to create this. So a lot of thanks to my good friend Bart, who is an amazing graphic designer. And I'll leave the links in the description to his information if you're interested in any type of graphic design or anything that you're trying to create in terms of videography, cinematography, anything like that. I'll leave the links to his information. And also, for those who feel that the moon is bad or evil, because there is so much circulating on YouTube and on the internet and literature that people have put out about the moon and about it being a dark entity or a dark force, that it's hollow, that there's space stations on the dark side of the moon. There's also, for the deep occultists, there's also the Saturn moon matrix. So I'm going to address that a little bit later in the video. I don't want to make that what this video is about, though. So for the majority of this video's sake, I just kind of simply asked to kind of look at this presentation or the pieces of my conceptualization today as organic as possible. Just look at the moon, for at least for this video, as a natural satellite, because that's how fundamentally this video today will make the most sense. Okay, and I say natural satellite based upon the impact theory. So if any of you have heard of the impact theory, I'm going to kind of get into that. And also the Apollo missions. So the Apollo missions were where they recovered the chemical and the isotopic compounds of the moon. And they basically determined that the moon is made up of the Earth's crust, the mantle, the basalt, and a rock called Anorthosite. So I hope I'm saying that correctly, Anorthosite. And I'm going to take a little drink. I have vitamin water today. Just, I get thirsty when I start talking. So basically, Anorthosite is a rock that's found on the moon predominantly. It's also found on the ocean floor at particular locations all over the globe. Okay, so that's also alluding to more of why they feel the impact theory is correct. And I'm going to explain that. So Theia, T-H-E-I-A, or Theia, is probably how you say it, Theia, was the original name of a Mars-sized planet And Theia means the mother of Selene. So this basically means mother of the goddess of the moon. And Theia impacted the Earth at the time of the planet wars. This was 4.5 billion years ago after the electric wars. So some of you know about the electric wars. They've been written about in some books, some cosmic books. And it's basically when the sky was going through its electrical wars, basically, where things were kind of a mess in the galaxy. Things were fighting for space. Things were fighting for their place in their gravitational alignment. They were fighting for where they were going to take their location in the galaxy, essentially. There was a lot of explosions and a lot of basically ramming into one another, and everything was forming. It was chaotic. Okay, that's why it was called the Electric Wars, and it was mainly in the stars, mainly in the heavens. Okay, but there was also a time of planet wars. So this was considered to be about 4.5 billion years ago. And that also alludes us to kind of believe that the stars were here before the planets ever even existed. Okay, so that also kind of puts things into perspective, at least for me, in terms of star systems and star seeds and star races and how they came into existence. And what that means to the beings on Earth. But I'll leave links in the description on articles that you can reference to learn more about Theia. And the planet wars were a time in cosmic history where about 20 planets circled our sun and collided into each other, leaving just Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, our moon, and then also Phobos and deimos, and I don't know if I'm saying these right, Phobos and deimos, which are Mars's moons. Okay, so that's about going from about 20 planets down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 planetoid-like formations surrounding our sun, and then the outer gas giants were formed later. But Earth and Theia basically collided. They melted and they reformed as one body, with a small part of the mass spinning off to become the moon. And if you just get on YouTube and search Theia planet, there is all kinds of simulations where you can see how this collision could have happened and could have created the moon body. So it's said that Theia formed outside of the Milky Way, and this could be what actually brought water to Earth, is that the water was actually on Theia, and then Theia came into the alignment and then ended up colliding with Earth, and then gave all of the water to Earth. And so that's how we supposedly, according to the impact theory, got water on planet Earth. But it's actually not proven, and it's actually not known where water actually came from. So it's a lot of theory, essentially. This collision may also coincide the Babylonian mythology of Tiamat, embodying chaos of primordial creation and sea salts. So it's very, it kind of flows. The story kind of matches if it was true that the slicing of Tiamat in half from her ribs is what made heaven and earth. So I pose the question, was the collision of Earth and Theia the slicing of Tiamat? It's possible. They say her weeping eyes became the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. And so, you know, the impact story, the impact theory very well could explain the impact of, or the slicing of Tiamat. So did Theia bring the tablet of destinies from beyond the Milky Way? I pose this question. And because of this collision, Earth's core and seafloors are mixed with Theia's core. And also the rocks, the basalt and the arsenic rock, that is what comprises the moon. So it's basically mixed with what's considered our current moon. It's the same rock, same compounds, essentially, same alchemical compounds. Our core and also the seafloor. The seafloor and our core essentially are the same compounds as the moon now. So this connection only increases greater reasons for the intense mutual gravitational attraction, tidal locked in and captured in rotation between the moon and the Earth, which are in a constant state of gravitational star particle transferring, particularly on new and full moons when the spring tides are the highest. So the Earth and the moon are basically two magnets stuck together. So I know some of you kind of know this, and I'm just kind of breaking this down to kind of really explain how synergistic their relationship is. So in case someone doesn't know, but they're basically like two magnets stuck together. The moon doesn't have its own rotation. So it's polarized, only facing Earth, showing the same side to Earth, and it orbits around the Earth in an ecliptic plane, which would be the Earth's accurate equatorial plane if Earth wasn't knocked 23.5 degrees off its axis. Okay, so this is alluding that the collision was what knocked it off its axis. And this is also why I'm going to have John Shaughnessy on the channel just to go over some of this, some of his theory as well, because he's wrote about, I think, 2 extensive books on the moon in all of his studies. So it'll be really interesting to see his perspective. But they also believe this impact to have happened somewhere at the equator, because compound samples on the ocean floors and the equator have seemed to match the basalt in the Anorthosite. But you will find this also at the high tidal locations globally, such as the Isle of Rum in Scotland, which is one of the lunar stargates I have listed on my Scribbles map, which I'm going to present here. Now the moon waxes into the full moon and wanes from full to new. So when it's doing this, this is called the band of the belly. And the moon's belly is representing the womb. So when it's a new moon, Spirit has a new vehicle that represents the first state of being, seeing the lunar shifts as a collection of spirit from the solar sun, the grand central sun, Sirius, and Pleiades, our binary system. Okay, this is why people see 3 different rotating suns, is because of our binary connection with the Pleiades. And this is also shifting in also from other aligned and influencing stargates and galaxies and nebulas, because nebulas are supposed to be the actual incubators. Nebulas are supposed to be the birthplace of souls. I think there's definitely one in Orion. There's one in Lyra. That's why Lyra is called the cradle of Lyra. It's because they have, it's very melodious. It's like symphonic. It's the Orpheus of Lyra. So it's very melody-like. There's like a humming, like a high attunement to the symphony of the galaxy from Lyra. But essentially, all of these influencing stargates, galaxies, and nebulas are of the original incarnation and of the seed races that have essentially pollinated Earth. If Earth is a giant ovum, Earth is a giant egg, essentially. It's the goose egg, so to speak, for this video. That's out of context, but just for this video. So spirit, when it comes in like this, it's not yet in shape. It's not yet in form, and it enters the Earth's atmosphere through 6 spheres of the Elohim that are permeating around the Earth. And I've been seeing visions not only of these 6 spheres of the Elohim, but also 3 tri-universal layers or levels of plasma fields that also surround the Earth, and each one is of a different density structure. But as it comes in, it's merely a reflection of consciousness. So the moon is waxing and collecting the spirit, and waning is releasing the spirit. So a new moon represents birth, and a full moon represents death. Okay, and the new moon representing birth could be birthing soul collectives every new moon. The full moon representing death could be dematerializing collectives or returning them to source at that time, because the Earth also has a gravitational relationship with the celestial stars and the sun as well. Its strongest gravitational relationship is with the Earth, first and foremost. But there's also a gravitational pull with the star systems as well. So this is how it's all being transferred. There are theories that have come forth saying that the moon is a storehouse for spiritual incarnations. So someone who put this out is a guy named John Leary, and he calls it a soul catcher. And I just want to give a shout out to Owen Glendower for sending me that information. So thank you so much. But basically, John Leary believes souls are being received and transmitted through a mile-high antenna on the moon pointed towards Earth. I personally don't feel that there is anything unnatural about it. So I don't feel that there's like an antenna. I think that the moon itself would be the vehicle that is creating this. But I don't feel there's anything unnatural to potential reincarnation, that the moon may be simply just being the vehicle for the seeding operations of getting spirit from the celestial destinations into the womb. That it's an intermediary process that connects spirit to the physical. So I basically received a massive download about a week ago. And maybe it was 2 weeks ago. It was at the last full moon. And it revealed to me all of the lunar stargates. And I seen in a vision, I seen that the tides were bringing souls into the Earth. And I kept hearing the words, tidal flows by the moon and the sun are celestial royalty. I kept hearing that, you know, when you get that imprint into your mind and then the words just pop up. I kept hearing the words, tidal flows by the moon and the sun are celestial royalty. Then I started being shown, like, the only way to explain it is primordial soup kitchens. It was like plasma fields of water and salt and enzymes in tidal pools. So pools of water. And I seen this in a constant, continuous stream of star particle gravitational transfer. And then once I get a vision like that, then I immediately just start researching. I'm just right into it. I'm on it. I'm like, what is this trying to tell me? And so I just started diving in. So if you're in my Diamond Suns Human Grail Lines group on Facebook, then when you see me start posting stuff and articles and things where I'm kind of just in a frenzy, it's because I'm getting the downloads. But basically, it's been proven that the moon diagmatically affects the tides of the ocean. And all primordial waters, all fluids of Earth, blood, but particularly plasma. Plasma is 55% of your blood. And it's like a clear yellowish liquid that surrounds the cells in the blood. And it actually is made, and it comes from the digestive tract. So the core of your being, it's the solar plexus. It's this is why magnetic energy, gravitational energy, electromagnetic energy is always felt at the core. It's felt at the center of your being. And then this therefore transmits to the higher chakras, but everything really is felt first at the core. This is why and how it's so connected with the reproductive cycles, is because this energy is right into the stomach, right into the core of the woman, into where the womb is housed, the stomach. So amniotic fluids, all of this stuff. It's basically bonded intimately with all emotion, reproduction, fertility cycles, planetary cycles, all divine feminine energy, attracting spirit, even the liquid in the vagina, the I don't even know what it's called. Yeah, I mean, even that, it's pure life living energy. And through the collection, through reproduction cycles, so this collection through the umbilical cord, through silicate, iron, nickel, through the collection of blood in the womb, it's all coming into the body. Life is in a constant state of alchemizing. And the iron magnetically and gravitationally draws spirit in the blood and incarnates through the umbilical cord and the womb, providing the spirit's cradle. So basically the soul manifests to be nurtured. The soul comes in saying, I need to belong here. So birthing is an emotional experience provided by our connection with the moon. There would be no incarnating without the need for being grounded in belonging. It's a completely vulnerable experience, and we have to know that we belong. And the only thing we feel is safety in the imagining of our reality when we come to Earth. And we feel this through the moon. It's through the moon. The moon brings this through. So the moon is the vehicle body providing this for spirit. So we wouldn't have the planetary north and south nodes without the moon. We wouldn't have north and south nodes without the moon. That's kind of important. It's how the north and south nodes are how the cosmic race seeds into the race morphogenetic field inside of the planet. Okay, so these processes are equally symbolic to incubation. Also infraction or inception. One might remember some of this aspects as their spirit was housed through protecting, guiding, expanding lunar stargates of consciousness. The rocking of the womb, the rocking of the tides and the plasma swells in the tide pools. Okay, so I'm going to get more into the tides and the tide pools, and I'm going to tie this into the lunar stargate locations because this is what I was downloaded. This is coming from my own gnosis, and I'm going to tell you guys more about this. So some of you know I have written a book called How to Read Celestial Akashic Starseed Origins, Lunar Edition. And you can find my book on Amazon. You can find it on Google Books, Lulu Book Sales, and I do believe it's also on Kindle for ebook. And I will leave the links in the description if you're interested in my book. And in my book, I go through, the first few chapters are about basically everything that I'm talking about right now. I actually added a lot more depth and detail into some things that I hadn't put in the book that I'm telling you today. I don't have the information on Theia in this book, but I am, like I said, I'm putting together another book that I'm going to have more of this information. But essentially it's considered the lunar edition because the basis for the degree markers in the book are in accordance to the lunar nakshatras, the celestial lunar mansions influence. And in the book, I have all of the degree markers, and I wrote this book to give people a methodology to being able to read starseed origins, because when I came into a lot of this, there really wasn't any books out except for one, and that was Aspen Rain's book. And I read that book and I enjoyed that book, but it didn't call to me as deeply as finding my own methodology. And so I started diving into studying how I could determine this, how I could find this information, how I could present this information, and the lunar nakshatras presented to me through my research. And so I came to find out that the lunar nakshatras actually house all 6 major starseed origins plus 22 other starseed nations that fall into those lunar nakshatras. So it actually gives a lot more detail, and this is how I actually started to dive into learning more about occult systems. But I do go deep into the book. I have a detailed chart ideology and why I feel that the lunar aspect is closest to the truth. The full breakdown is in the book, guys. So make sure you pick up a copy. This is the first time I'm actually ever really promoting my book on my channel. I think I can't remember if I've talked about it in any other videos. I don't know if I really have. So it's kind of exciting. I hope you guys get a copy of it. Apparently there's a couple typos in it. I'm the worst at typos. It is definitely my kryptonite. But I'm gonna fix that at some point. But I'm gonna kind of go over quickly some of the stuff that's in my book just a little bit, because it does coincide the lunar Stargate locations today. So as a little history to why the lunar aspect is the incipient force in reincarnation, resurrection, death and rebirth cycles, starseed soul collective seedings, and Stargate access through this lunar Stargate perspective. So to better explain the physical planetary locations of the lunar Stargates on Earth, okay? For one, because there are multiple aspects to how your star origin influences your life path, your soul mythology, your galactic mission in your natal chart. So in every planetary position in your chart, there is a celestial lunar aspect and a celestial solar aspect of how one would determine your origin, with the Earth acting as the center point or the 0 point field. So what I mean by that is a solar culmination aligned to a specific star system will have the most dominant alignment in a chart. So that's what you should always look for first. But if you can't find the solar culmination, culmination means that our sun is directly aligned with that star, then I say look at the moon. Because the lunar element, after all of my studies, off of the synergistic relationship between the Earth and the Moon, I have found that it is the incipient force, as it is the magnetic and gravitational force that anchors in the solar and celestial particle and antiparticle cosmic radial light and seeds them into the morphogenetic race field of the planet and ultimately human psyche and consciousness through the Genesis processes. Genesis is creational processes. So the gravitational force of the Moon is not only in a constant state of particle gravitational force transfer, which connects biologically and directly with the plasma of your blood, but the gravity is also weighing on mass and also on light. So that's interesting, because if gravity is propagated by the Moon, but also seemingly penetratable on light spectrum as well, okay, then it's basically between polarities. It's between separation, almost as if it is the glue that keeps the two tied together. So I feel that it's what keeps the soul tied to the physical. The Moon's consciousness is more advanced than planet Earth's. Now, don't take that out of context, because I can see how we're going to go places with that. What I mean is because due to its speed, due to its rotation around the Earth, it's almost as if it's rotating around so much quicker that it's displaying a faster cycle in its consciousness, not meaning that it holds more consciousness than the Earth, but it's advanced in its, if the Earth had a mentality, it would have like a faster mentality. It would be like much quicker. And that's what also pertains to the subconscious, because the subconscious is much quicker than your conscious mind. So you see how that kind of falls into place. So it's due to its speed, it's due to its rotation, it's due to its protection around the Earth and what it's creating for the Earth, this synergy. And also its distance in comparison to the sun as well. It's also a little bit closer to the sun at certain locations and points. There's also the factor of the pineal as well, because the pineal is because of the Moon. So this is directing all the subconscious biological cycles and also perceptions of time, which is where the Saturn-Moon matrix comes into play, the connection to Chronos. The pineal, lunar, endocrine sensory cell connects this awareness that humans would not be able to function in the 3D without the concept of time. And it kind of merges all of the ideologies of time, which Saturn is known to be the father of time. And like I said, I'm not going to get into the demonization accounts and the dark forces that have been perceived from this, because like I said, there's stuff all over Facebook and YouTube. You can go look for to search for this information, but I don't want to promote demonization anymore. I'm just over it. So however you feel about that, you can feel however you'd like to feel about it. I personally am tired of demonizing things. I feel that's the problem with the world is taking no accountability or responsibility for things, demonizing as a way to point the finger at something and hold no accountability. And so it frustrates me, because I feel you can perceive something, because I feel if you can perceive something, then it can be true, and then therefore it plays out in your reality. So the second that you incept something as your truth, then you're going to go for the ride, basically. And all can be true according to the perspective that you hold and the gnosis that you hold. So it's what you choose to engage in. I don't choose to engage in the dark side of things. I've honestly have worked with the planet Saturn. I have Saturn medallions, as well as all of the other planets, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus. I choose to stay on the side of light in the astrological perspectives of Saturn, acting as more of a parental figure in your natal. And so I'll just kind of leave it as that. So today I feel it's better to just simply, like I said, look at the organic aspects like I stated in the beginning. Okay, now we're gonna kind of get into the fun stuff. So I'm gonna actually show you the extended universal tree of life that I designed here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up for you guys, just to show you how I place these all on a universal tree of life, a 28 extended version, to show the interconnectedness of the locations themselves. And so I'm just gonna kind of go through lunar, Stargate, planetary locations. So this is how I've summarized this. Now, the lunar Stargates planetarily on Earth are the locations with the most lunar activity. Stargates are not only solar or helium powered, they are also magnetically vortexual and often rolling and rhythmic in expression. Lunar Stargates also carry a more powerful emotional resonance to the star system they generate to and from most frequently. They also provide a more magnetic and subatomic expression of the radial celestial template they converge with. So all of these locations are aquatic oceanic stargates, as they are the locations of the most powerful and highest tides on Earth, using 2/3 lunar energy and 1/3 solar energy. The gravitational pull thrusts the Earth in and out of the aquatic bulge, created by the gravitational pull of the moon, creating the effect of the tide coming in and out. They are the most exalted on a new and full moon during what is called a spring tide. Okay, so we have this beautiful blue full moon this Halloween, and this will be an exalted happening. This will be an exalted position. Okay, and so when you're cleansing on a full moon, you're basically cleansing the departure of your ancestors. You're cleansing the departure of souls releasing back to source or back into reincarnation cycles. You are cleansing also incarnating souls. So collectively, this is what's happening on new and full moons. The stargates of the lunar magnetic force of life that anchors in the moon's message the clearest. So that's what we're going to be showing on my map today as well. The lunar locations below that I'm going to, and where life is forming, and why I feel that I was seeing primordial soup kitchens is in the tide pools. Okay, so it's important to take note too, if you look at things in terms of evolution and also soul genetics, how we retain memory from other species, and also the spiritual body from other species. It's important to look at that the relatives of every major group of invertebrates on the planet can be found in a single tide pool on the coast. So it's all here. We know where life started. From the Precambrian era, this is where life started, was actually in tide pools. So an invertebrate is an animal lacking a backbone. So this is the largest group in the animal kingdom on Earth. And this is insects. This is snails, octopus. This is even snakes. Okay, and snakes are one of the oldest soul genetics records on the planet, period. If you look at all creational mythology, all over the earth, every civilization, the serpent is always the oldest account within these stories. And so it just makes sense. It just makes sense that these tide pools were where life began, life started. Okay, and so I'm going to show you my map. Okay, so I hope you guys can see my map here, because I'm going to run through some of this as much as I possibly can. Okay, so basically the lunar locations below were chosen per the highest tides existing on Earth according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I did put an article out on this on my website, indigoangel222.com, so I will also leave a link to this article that I put out. It's very basic. I actually did not go into all of the details that I just went into today, or any of the details that I went into in my book, but because I'm saving this for the next one. So just know that all of this information today, all of these lunar gate locations, all of this stuff is copyrighted to me. So it shouldn't be shared out as someone else's information, just so you know. But basically they were placed in order on my map, in order from spiritual significance, and also the sacredness of the location to the exalted degree of 28. Lunar dimensional mansions is what we're going on. So those locations that had 28 feet of the high tide were more exalted locations. So they were placed on the chart in accordance to that. Also, any locations that had potential matches in frequency that aligned to any Stargate clues, which there were a couple, and I'm going to get into that because that's very important. These factors were all considered very carefully as I put this list together and narrowed it down to 28 for the 28 mansions of the moon. The locations were then assigned and aligned in accordance to the 28 lunar nakshatras and Indian sidereal astrology markers, and they were defined by the fixed Stargate significance. Okay, something else to note too is you see these two red lines that I have here. Each one of these red lines, even though it looks like there's more space from the center point to the red line on the top one, I think they're about the same. They're at about the 45 degree north horizontal axial ley line, and also the 45 degrees south. I do feel that globally, this is where we are being receiving the most energy from the lunar stargates. It's basically all of the coastal shores are in some type of tidal exchange with the moon. But essentially, there are specific locations on the planet that are receiving the most powerful gravitational force with the moon. And so I drew a line where I feel that we're receiving the most lunar activity globally, and it is on about the 45 degree north and 45 degree south horizontal ley line. And it's interesting because when you start getting into the ley lines that extend not so close to the equator, you start getting into more parallel experiences, more of an astral or a lucid-like experience amongst those ley lines, more mysterious type happenings on these particular ley lines. Now, the first one that I'm going to talk about is the Bay of Fundy. So the spiritual significance to this one is it's close to the Prince Edward Island. So that's something to take note of. And this is the lunar stargate of rapid healing and reaching desires. This would be the largest lunar stargate on the planet, with 9 points of the high tides globally in the top 50 highest tide locations in the world. So 9 points of lunar gravity force. This is the Burncoat Head, Horton Bluff, Amherst Point, Parsboro, Joggins, Spencer Island, Ilhat, Spicer Cove, and Port George. The second one is the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick. So this one has a spiritual significance, exalted at 28 range in feet of tide. So remember, I told you they were at the 28 range feet in tide. This was exalted. This is the lunar stargate of Restraint and Renewal. It's the second largest lunar stargate on the planet, with 4 points of the highest tides globally in the top 50 highest tide locations in the world. 4 points of lunar gravity force. Hopewell Cape. This is highly exalted. My intuition just pulled me into Hopewell Cape. There's like it's a very special sacred place. Grindstone Island, Heron Cove, and Quaco Bay. The third one is Ungava Bay in Quebec. Now the spiritual significance is this is a Pleiadian lunar stargate. So it's the lunar stargate of fire. This is the fourth largest lunar stargate on the planet, with 3 points of the highest tides globally in the top 50 highest tide locations in the world. 3 points of lunar gravity force. Leaf Lake, Leaf Bay, Hope's Advanced Bay. The fourth one is the Bristol Channel in the United Kingdom. The spiritual significance, this one is also exalted at a 28 feet in tide. This is considered the Aldebaran lunar stargate. So Archangel Michael. This is the lunar stargate of growth. This is the third largest lunar stargate on the planet, with 5 points of the highest tides globally in the top 50 highest tide locations in the world. The 5 points of lunar gravity force are Newport, Weston-super-Mare, Cardiff, Barry, and Watchet. Now the fifth one is Hangzhou Bay, Jiaqing, China. So I'm going to slaughter this, and I'm so sorry if anyone's watching from China. It's the Qingtang River. So this one is very magical. This one is very special. The spiritual significance of this one is it is celebrated on the 8th month of the lunar calendar year, and it's called the Silver Dragon. This is considered an Orion Bellatrix lunar stargate. So this is a lunar stargate of searching and fulfillment. And this one is probably the most special one, honestly. Like, in China, everyone actually gathers to come watch this event. They built a special gigantic wall to come and watch this. And it's actually a celebration for them there. The sixth one is King Sound, Western Australia. The spiritual significance is that it makes a king sound from construction and squeeze of lunar solar gravity force. This is Orion. This is an Orion lunar stargate, and it's Betelgeuse. So this is the main Orion lunar stargate. And it's the lunar stargate of great efforts. The seventh one, Coke Soak River in Quebec, Canada. Okay, the spiritual significance, it's exalted at that 28 feet in tide. Lunar stargate of abundance and wealth. The eighth one is the Rio Gallegos River in Argentina. Spiritual significance is it's a Syrian lunar stargate, which makes sense, right? Because Sirius is on the southern hemisphere, and it's the lunar stargate of nourishment. So we have the ninth one. Now there's 28 of these to get through, so I might just skip and go to some of the important ones from this point forward. I wanted to get through the Orion one. But like I said, I will leave a link to the article that I wrote on my website, indigoangel222.com. It will be in the description from this video. The ninth one is the Hydra lunar stargate. This is Gulf of Combat in India. And did I chart that one? Oh, here we go. Here it is. Sorry. It's the lunar stargate of secrets, rhythm, and regeneration. And, ooh, this was a big one, the Strait of Magellan. So the Strait of Magellan, it has a spiritual significance, exalted at 20 feet in tide. This is considered the Regulus lunar stargate. So if anybody know, any of you know about Magellan, the great explorer Magellan, okay? He named this Strait of Magellan, or they named it after him in Chile. He was an explorer who found this. He was the first person to sail around the tip of South America. This is the lunar gate of leaving body and ancestors. This is the gate of power. This one really hit my core. I felt really connected to this one. This one is also Strait of Magellan. This is also the 5th largest lunar stargate on the planet, with 3 points of the highest tides globally in the top 50 highest tide locations in the world. The 3 points of lunar gravity force were Banco Dirección, Bahia Possession, and Dungeness. I did not pronounce those right. Apologies. So I'll go to the 11th one, Saltström, Norway. Now the spiritual significance, these are the fastest tides in the world. They have whirlpools and vortexes. This is like the craziest one. This is the lunar stargate of manifestation and fortune. And this one literally creates thousands of very fast whirlpools as it comes in. It's so magical to watch this. You can actually just Google, or you can get on YouTube and look for Saltström, Norway tide whirlpools and watch. This is incredible. When you see this, I mean, you can visually see this happening. It energizes you. You feel very connected to it. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the rest of them because, like I said, there's 28 of them. So I'm going to be here for a very long time. But like I said, I'll leave the link in the description to my article. You can go and look at all of the ones that I have listed and see how you resonate with this, guys. I would love some feedback. I would love to know what you think. And yeah, so this is my update for today. I hope you all enjoyed this. So thank you so much for watching. Happy Blue Moon. I am available for Starseed Origin readings at indigoangel222.com. I do have my platinum reading, which is Starseed Origins plus Akashic Records. And I also do JCL removals, and I do advanced avatar master practices where we go through basic energy mechanics. If you want to work with me on a more deeper, more interactive, more one-on-one personal experience, you can find all of my services at indigoangel222.com. And don't forget to get my book, guys. So I love you all so much, and I hope you have a beautiful, blessed everything, and namaste.